Today we're going to talk about one of the toughest ideas in economics. Not how to get rich, because that's the easy part, but how to avoid being poor, which is much harder. Most people believe poverty is simply about not having enough money, but that's not really true. Poverty isn't just a number in your bank account, it behaves more like a force. It pulls you down, traps you, and keeps you stuck in a cycle where you keep trying but never seem to move forward. It's like a system designed to drain your energy over time. Think of it like physics. When a rocket tries to leave Earth, it has to fight gravity. To escape, it needs to reach a very specific speed, called escape velocity. If it uses almost all its fuel but still falls just short of that speed, it doesn't get close to space. It falls straight back down and crashes. That's exactly how life feels for many people in the working class. You work hard, save a little, and try to improve your situation. But then something goes wrong. Your car breaks down, you get sick, or expenses suddenly increase. That gravity pulls you back down, and the worst part is, you don't just go back to where you started, you fall even lower. Now you're more tired, more discouraged, and you have even fewer resources left to try again. When you have less, everything costs more. You can't buy in bulk, so you pay higher prices per item. You can't afford quality, so you end up replacing cheap things again and again. You delay healthcare because of cost, and later you pay much more for serious treatment. This idea is often explained through the Boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness. The poor end up paying more over time, simply because they can't afford better upfront choices. On top of that, the system adds penalties for being poor. Late fees, overdraft charges, and high interest rates all stack against you. It's like running a race with extra weight on your back, while others are being pushed forward. But the most dangerous part isn't just external, it's internal. Living in this constant pressure changes how you think. Your brain shifts into survival mode. Stress builds up, your focus shortens, and long-term planning disappears. Instead of thinking about years ahead, you start worrying about the next few minutes. You react instead of plan. This creates a loop that feeds itself. Low income creates stress. Stress leads to poor decisions. Poor decisions prevent you from building assets, and without assets, you stay stuck with low income. It becomes a cycle that keeps repeating, a perfect trap. But there is a way out. Just like in physics, enough force can break through. The key is understanding the system and attacking the specific chains that hold you down. There's the scarcity tax that drains your mental energy, the dopamine trap that pulls your money away, and the linear income trap that limits your growth. To escape, you have to build your own engine, something that can generate enough momentum to break free, because once you finally reach that escape velocity, everything changes. The resistance fades, the pressure lifts, and for the first time, you're not just surviving, you're moving freely. But before that happens, you have to make it through the hardest part, the launch. And it starts by understanding the first loop, the scarcity tax. Most people think giving someone money solves poverty, but even lottery winners often lose everything within a few years. Why? Because poverty isn't just about not having money, it's about patterns, systems, and mindset that don't change overnight. What poverty really takes away isn't just money, it's mental space. It's a lack of cognitive bandwidth. Research by Senthil Mullainathan showed that when your mind is constantly stressed about money, rent, bills, emergencies, your effective IQ can drop by around 13 points. That's similar to the impact of not sleeping for 24 hours. In simple words, when you're under financial pressure, your brain isn't working at full capacity. You're trying to solve big, long-term problems with a mind that's stuck in survival mode. This is what makes the scarcity trap so dangerous. When your mental bandwidth is limited, you're forced into decisions that solve immediate problems, but create bigger ones later. You take a high-interest loan because you need cash now. You choose cheaper, unhealthy food because it's fast and affordable. It's not because you're careless. It's because you're mentally exhausted, and the system quietly takes advantage of that. A powerful way to understand this is through the Boots theory of unfairness. A person with money can afford a good quality pair of boots that lasts years, making it cheaper in the long run. But someone with less money has to keep buying cheaper boots that wear out quickly. Over time, they actually spend more while getting worse quality. That's how poverty works. It forces you into decisions that are more expensive over time, simply because you don't have enough up front. And it's not just boots. It shows up everywhere: late fees, overdraft charges, high interest rates, smaller purchases at higher per unit prices. The system charges you extra for having less. So how do you break this first loop? You don't start by chasing big goals like getting rich, buying a house, or investing. The first step is much simpler, but much more important. You build a buffer. Your first goal is to save a small emergency fund, maybe $500 or $1,000. Keep it separate and treat it as untouchable. This isn't spending money, this is protection. This is what stops one small problem, a broken phone, a medical bill, a sudden expense, from dragging you all the way back down again. Because once you create even a small buffer, something powerful happens. The pressure starts to ease. Your brain gets a little breathing room, and that's the first real step toward breaking out of the cycle. This money isn't just savings, it's a way of buying back control of your mind. When you have even a small buffer, problems stop feeling like disasters. A car breaking down becomes manageable instead of overwhelming. You don't have to rush into high-interest loans or panic decisions. You move from reacting to emergencies to handling them with calm. That small amount, $500 or $1,000, gives you something more valuable than money: mental clarity. It helps you think properly again, sleep better, and finally look beyond just surviving the day. A lot of people skip this step and jump straight into investing or chasing big financial goals. But that's like trying to build something massive on unstable ground. It won't last. First, you need stability. That means creating a buffer, even if it requires short-term sacrifice. Living very simply for a few months isn't punishment. It's a strategic move to escape the constant pressure that's been holding you down. Once you understand that, you start to see the next trap clearly, the emotional one. This is what we can call the dopamine trap. From the outside, people often judge spending habits, asking why someone struggling financially might still buy expensive items or eat out. But the reality is deeper than that. When you're under constant stress, your body is flooded with cortisol. You feel pressure, frustration, even a sense of invisibility. Your brain starts craving relief, something that makes you feel good, even if it's temporary. So when you buy something new, your brain releases dopamine. For a short time, you feel better, more confident, more in control. It feels like a small win in an otherwise difficult situation. But that relief doesn't last. The feeling fades quickly while the financial consequences stay. What seemed like a moment of happiness turns into long-term burden. That's where the trap tightens. Temporary comfort leads to lasting pressure. This highlights a key difference in how money is used. Some people use money mainly to feel better in the moment, while others use it to create future freedom. One approach focuses on immediate relief, the other on long-term control. This is where the idea of assets and liabilities becomes important. Some things you buy lose value and continue to cost you. That's a liability. Other things have the potential to grow or generate value over time. That's an asset. Understanding this difference isn't just about finance. It's about changing how you think, so your decisions start working for you instead of against you. The real power of an asset is that it works for you even when you're not working. But most people stuck in low-income cycles are surrounded by liabilities. They might have a nice car, branded clothes, subscriptions, and the latest gadgets. On the surface, it looks like success, but underneath, money is constantly flowing out. It's like feeding short-term pleasure while slowly draining long-term stability. So how do you break out of that? You reset. You go into what we can call monk mode. This isn't forever. It's a temporary but intense phase where you cut out everything unnecessary. No extra subscriptions, no eating out, no impulse shopping. You simplify your life down to the basics. It will feel uncomfortable, even boring. People around you might not understand, but the mindset shift is important. You're not being deprived, you're training. During this phase, something interesting happened. When you stop relying on spending for happiness, your brain starts to adjust. Instead of getting satisfaction from buying things, you begin to feel it from progress, like watching your savings grow. That's a different kind of reward. It's not quick and flashy, but it's stable and powering. And once you reach that point, you're harder to control. You're no longer chasing every new thing for validation. That's when real freedom starts. After that, you face another major trap, the one that keeps people constantly tired, the linear income trap. Most people grow up believing that time equals money. If you want more income, you work more hours, so they take extra shifts, side jobs, or weekend work. But there's a limit. You only have 24 hours in a day. No matter how hard you push, your income hits a ceiling. Meanwhile, your expenses don't have that limit, and this is where inflation quietly works against you. Prices keep rising: food, fuel, rent. But income doesn't increase at the same speed. Wages tend to lag behind, so even if you're working more, your actual purchasing power is shrinking. It's like running upward on a downward moving escalator. You're putting in effort, but still falling behind. Over time, this creates burnout. You sacrifice time, health, and relationships, yet financially you don't move forward. That's why just working harder within the same system often doesn't solve the problem. The structure itself limits you. So the real shift comes when you stop playing only by those rules. Instead of trading time for money endlessly, you start thinking about how to change the model, how to create income that isn't directly tied to every hour you work. That's the turning point where effort can finally start compounding instead of just sustaining you. At some point, you have to stop trading hours for money and start creating value. That's the real shift. Most people think they need to become the absolute best at one skill, but that path is crowded and slow. A smarter approach is to combine a few different skills and create something unique. Scott Adams is a perfect example. He wasn't world-class in any single area, but by being good at drawing, writing, and understanding business, he created something powerful when those skills came together. If you're stuck in a low-income cycle, the answer isn't just working more hours that only increases linear income, and it keeps you trapped. Instead, use your focus time to build additional skills. When you combine abilities from different areas, you become harder to replace. You stop being just labor and start becoming someone who brings unique value. That's when your income begins to disconnect from your time. The market doesn't reward effort the way people think. It rewards rarity. If your work can easily be replaced, your income will always stay limited. But when you stack skills, you create a kind of protection around yourself. You become valuable in a way that's difficult to copy as AT. That's how you slowly move from being a commodity to becoming an asset. But even after that, there's another powerful force holding people back, something deeper than money or skills. This is social gravity. The people around you shape how you think, often without you realizing it. Humans naturally copy behaviors, attitudes, and beliefs from their environment. If everyone around you is stuck, complaining, or motivated, it becomes incredibly hard to think differently. Is where the crab bucket effect comes in. When one person out, others pull them back, not of call, out of course. Beat the growth makes them affordable. It forces them to confront their own situation. So instead of supporting you, they may question you, discourage you, or even mock your efforts. You might hear things like, "Why are you trying so hard?" Or "Relax, it's not that serious." It sounds harmless, but it slowly pulls you back into the same cycle. That's social gravity in action. If you follow that pull, you stay where you are. But if you recognize it for what it is, you can start to distance yourself from it, mentally first, and sometimes physically too. Because escaping the cycle isn't just about money or skills, It's also about protecting your mindset from being dragged back down. You have to realize that poverty is not just financial. It can become a mindset shared by the people around you. It often turns into a story people repeat to themselves. The system is unfair, luck is bad, nothing can change. That story feels comforting because it removes responsibility, but at the same time, it keeps you stuck in the same place. So breaking out of this loop requires something difficult but powerful: protecting your environment, especially your mind. This doesn't mean cutting off people in a harsh way, but it does mean being careful about what you allow into your mind. Constant negativity, complaining, and hopeless thinking slowly shape how you see the world. If you absorb that every day, it becomes your reality too. Solution is to intentoise your better thinking. And today, that's more possible than ever. You don't need to physically sit with successful people to learn from them. Books, what books am stayuschen, fefte, tun saito kand, lie from people like Li Fom. When you study how they think, you start adopting their mindset. It's like installing a new operating system in your brain. Over time, this changes how you make decisions, how you react to problems, and how you see opportunities. In a way, you begin to build a new environment inside your own mind, one that supports growth instead of limiting it. This leads to the final and most important concept: compounding. Albert Einstein famously described compound interest as one of the most powerful forces in the world, and it works in two directions. If you're in debt, compounding works against you. High interest loans, credit cards, and debt slowly drain your wealth. Even if you're not actively spending, you wake up each day slightly worse off than before. On the other hand, when you own assets, compounding starts working for you. Investments, businesses, and assets grow over time, often quietly at first. The difference is huge. One side is constantly losing ground, the other is steadily gaining it. To move from one side to the other, you need a clear path. First comes survival, where you reduce expenses, build your buffer, and eliminate high-interest debt. That's about stopping the damage. Then comes accumulation, where you slowly start building assets. Even a small, consistent amount, like saving and investing a little every day, can grow over time. For example, putting money into something like S&P 500 means you're owning a small piece of large companies and letting that value grow over the long term. It's not fast or flashy, but it's powerful because of consistency. At this stage, you're no longer just working for money, you're starting to make money work for you, and that's the shift that eventually breaks the cycle for good. At first, it will feel small, almost insignificant. It might even seem pointless, but you have to trust the math and stay consistent. Then comes the third stage, freedom. This is the point where your assets start generating enough income to cover your basic needs. This is your escape velocity. The moment you reach it, everything changes. You're no longer forced to trade your time just to survive. You gain options, control, and a sense of dignity that comes from knowing you're not stuck anymore. If we step back and look at the full picture, the poverty loop becomes clear. There's the scarcity tax that drains your mental energy, the dopamine trap that pulls you into short-term relief, the linear income trap that limits your growth, the social gravity that keeps you mentally stuck, and the compound void that works against you instead of for thee, are the hold people in place. But here's the deeper truth. Those may feel, but they are largely shape-designed. The system, your environment, and even your own fears all push you to stay where you are. Both staying feels safe. Stepping out feels uncertain. Yet the way out has always been there. Once you understand how these forces work, you're no longer blind to them. You start seeing the patterns, the traps, and the opportunities to break free. At that point, it's no longer about knowledge, it's about courage. The courage to change habits, to think differently, to act against comfort, and to keep going even when progress feels slow. Because the door isn't locked, it never was. You just have to decide to walk out.